Jordan Bohannon, Jared Stansbury. It's Jared and J-Bo on Iowa Everywhere. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Yo, welcome into the podcast. Jordan's on the road again. Where are you at now? Where in the world is Jordan Bohannon?
Jordan Bohannon is in Long Island today and going back home for a long home stretch tomorrow. I'm so excited.
What do you think of Long Island?
Overcast skies. A lot similar to Iowa feel right now. I don't know, dude. The days are blending together at this point. Like, it's end of January. I don't even know what day it is anymore. My sanity is gone.
I knew you had to be out of it when you texted me on Monday and asked about doing the podcast. And
Yeah,
I was like,
to be honest, I thought it was Wednesday or Tuesday. I don't even know. I don't know what else. It was early for me to say that.
I was gonna say you were trying to plan it out way ahead of when we normally would. I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this week, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We're on like 6 games in 8 days. Shit's wild. Welcome to the G League.
Hey, it could be worse. Could be worse.
I'm not complaining at all. I'm just saying it's when you start like traveling. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that listen that travel a lot for work. Like, it's crazy, like how your sleep schedule gets messed up. Like, you start eating breakfast at 2:00 in the afternoon. Shit's crazy.
As long as you've got your syrup when you have your breakfast at 2:00 in the afternoon.
That's true. I'm on a roll right now with my syrup.
Are you?
Yeah. I don't remember the last time my Uber Eats drivers forgot my syrup or I forgot my syrup at a restaurant.
You probably gave someone such a bad review the last time they forgot your syrup that they're like, we're never making this mistake again.
That's probably what it is. A funny thing is, too, is my brother Zach got me syrup for Christmas, like a big bottle of syrup.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. It's gotten to that point in our family.
Now you have to carry a bottle of syrup around with you just in case.
I had one in my backpack last road trip.
We need a sponsor of the podcast, a syrup sponsor, the official syrup of the podcast.
Would be unbelievable. Or we make our own syrup.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that'd be even better. We got to go to Vermont and like tap the trees, to try and get it to flow out.
Is that like a old folk legend? I don't believe that Vermont has the best syrup.
Well, I mean, I think that is where they make most of it. I guess I don't know.
I don't know.
But they have to get the sap from the trees,
You can make syrup though in Iowa. Like, Indian Creek is by my old house, and they make syrup like literally in eastern Iowa.
I guess I don't know enough about the syrup making process to really be able to weigh in, but I know Vermont is where they say has the best. I don't know.
Well, let's fucking go.
Vermont's been around for a long time, a lot longer than Iowa, so they probably just got the, first come, first serve. Well, I mean, yeah, Vermont was like one of the original colonies, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't in the original. There's no way.
What do you mean there's no way?
Vermont was the original 13 colony? No, it wasn't. Yeah, you're drunk. Yeah, it wasn't.
Well, there's no way then that Vermont was not like founded well before Iowa. It's right by all the colonies.
Relatively.
Bro, we didn't even know Iowa existed when we got here.
I mean, people knew Iowa existed. There were Indians living there.
Native Americans. Can you please have some...
Oh, my God. Oh.
I'm not getting canceled because of you, because you just... you don't know how to use the correct terminology, okay?
All right, Vermont's March 4th, 1791. I think I was like 1840, so...
Yeah, so only 50 years.
1846. Damn, I was really close in Iowa.
So just think how much time Vermont had to get their corner on the syrup industry. 50 years of time.
Well, what about this? In the summer in 1673, French explorers Louis Joliet and Father Jacques Marquette traveled down the Mississippi River past land that was to become Iowa. That was 1673.
I bet there was people in Vermont in like 14 something. Well, probably before then.
I bet there's people in Iowa.
Going back to the fact we took people's land again.
Yeah, we wanted it more.
I guess so. I suppose that's one. I suppose that's one way to put it. That is one way to put it. Iowa State wanted it more last night against Kansas State at Hilton Coliseum, an 80-76
What a
win over
transition.
over the number 5 Wildcats. Oh, yeah, that was a tough one. We'll talk about Iowa basketball later on as well. They got a couple big games coming up here over the rest of the week. 3 games in 5 days for the Hawkeyes coming up here over the next week or so. I do want to talk to you a little bit about the Chris Street documentary that you participated in that ran last week. That was incredible. And then Steve Prohm has joined our crusade against the officials, and we would like to welcome him into the officiating haters crew. But let's start with the Cyclones last night, 80-76 against Kansas State. Lost a close one to Oklahoma State on Saturday down in Stillwater, but Iowa State to bounce back, get a big win at home against another of the top teams in the Big 12. I mean, the Cyclones have put themselves right in position to be in the mix going into February and give themselves a chance to make a run at the Big 12 title. That win last night was impressive. I think that Kansas State team is every bit as good as what their rankings would indicate.
Yeah, Iowa State kind of caught them at a great time too. Iowa State playing well, and Kansas State coming off a huge victory against a really good Kansas team. So when you have a team like that, like Kansas State coming off an emotional win in state rival game, they're not going to play. It's hard to get to that same level of competition that next game. I'm not saying they weren't ready to play, but when you're coming off an emotional win like that, that is really hard to duplicate again and again, especially at a environment like Hilton is. So I wasn't surprised Iowa State was going to knock them off, but it was a really great basketball game at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you're seeing Iowa State right now be able to battle through kind of the dog days situation that they're in right now. Jazz Kuntz has been out for however long. You've got Caleb Groh who's banged up now. It's just like there's an element of it becomes a war of attrition, in the Big 12 just because there are so many guys who get banged up. But it just seems like this Iowa State team has a knack for making the play just when they need you to, like whether it's Taman Lipsey going in and getting 4 offensive rebounds and you're able to get some easy buckets off of those, whether it's, Caleb Groh, who's in and out of the game all night dealing with that back injury, comes in and knocks down a big 3-pointer late that puts you back up 4 points. It just is, they just have that ability to step up in the big moments. It doesn't matter how well they've been playing before then. It's like when it's your time to make a play and it's time for you to get something done in crunch time, more often than not, they're able to get it done.
Yeah, and Gabe Kalscheur continues to be the X Factor guy. I never like using the word X Factor. I think that's just a terrible term for basketball. Like every guy should bring energy to the team, but if you were to name someone on the Iowa State team to say that corny name for them, that would be Gabe Kalscheur. I think when he's able to play like he has been playing, I mean, he's showing he's able to shoot the ball at an extreme level now, something that he's been struggling with this last few years at Iowa State. When he's able to play like that, Iowa State's a totally different team. And that helps burden the pressure off a little bit of Iowa State's offense, because if Caleb Grill is not 100% healthy and not shooting the ball like he's capable of doing, they need someone else to step up and hit from 3-point territory like he's able to. And that creates a different dynamic for this Iowa State team.
I heard on your other podcast last week, you guys called Caleb Grill a scumbag.
Yep. And I stand by that. He's on the scumbag list.
I don't know if I think that Caleb Grill's a very nice guy. I don't know that he fits into the scumbag category.
The scumbag category or list we have is not saying you're a bad human being.
Well, I mean, it does have a very strong connotation that you are indicating they're a bad human being.
No, this is on the court. What he did to the Texas player, he should have been ejected for.
I don't know about ejected. It absolutely should have been a foul, though. I'm not sure that I would say he should have been ejected.
I think he should have. From the replay, I've watched the replay dozens of times. And maybe
how many times did you watch it in full speed? We're in the slow motion version.
Lots of times.
When we're breaking it down, the Zapruder film,
I watched it a good amount I even times 2 on it. Times 2 speed. Because you saw him take a look at
Yeah,
I forgot the Texas big guy's name, but
Dylan Mitchell.
yeah,
Yeah,
Dylan Mitchell, and right before he went up, while like he was midair, he looked and saw from what you can see on the film that he was already midair, so he undercutted him. And again, I'm not saying he's a bad human being. Shit like that happens, but
yeah. I was saying, I think it's just happening too fast. Like the number of people you saw that did come out and say he's trying to hurt him, and I'm like, I mean, I don't think that
okay,
anyone can think that quickly that they're like, oh, this guy with a 45-inch vertical is hanging in the air. I'm gonna dive into his legs and hurt him. Like the idea of that is completely crazy, you know.
I agree. But there's also a lot of Iowa State fans because I tweeted the video, and there's a few saying that
Yeah,
they
you sent
should.
it to me like I was supposed to be the one to defend him. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
not gonna defend that.
I know, I know. I'm glad you didn't bring your bias out, but
There's a picture of me from high school where I went up to block a shot and a guy did dive into my legs like that and flip me up in there.
so you know what it feels like.
I was parallel to the floor. Yeah,
Yeah, but you're still
horrible.
here.
Well, barely. I was knocked out. Next thing I knew, my dad was standing over the top of me. He's like,
Oh shit.
said, get up. And I was like, oh shit, what happened?
Yeah. So you know what it feels like. And I've had that
Yeah.
happen to me too, but I don't know. I just think what I was saying about Iowa State fans, there's a couple Iowa State fans in my mention saying that they are right for not calling a foul as incidental contact. I'm like, that's just not how basketball is officiated at the end of the
Well,
day.
I think that a lot of people are assuming that anytime they foul someone, you're meaning to do it. You know,
Right.
it's like all contact in basketball mostly is incidental, you know.
Yeah, like 95% of fouls are incidental.
Right. And that was what my thing was. It's like, yeah, it absolutely should have been a foul. I don't think that, and I think I said to you, I don't think there's malicious intent behind it of like, oh, I'm going to take this guy out, you know, because I just don't think I don't think that's a very realistic way to look at it. But there are certainly people out here who thought that that was the case. I'm not saying you, but there were people out there who thought that was the case. And I was like, that just is hard for me to believe that thought process can happen that quickly of like, I'm going to injure this person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 100% not saying there was malicious intent behind it, but
Apparently
from what
karma got him because Caleb Grill's the one who's injured now and Dylan Mitchell isn't. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. But I don't know. I think there should have been some repercussions, whether it was ejection or for sure a flagrant. There should have been a flagrant foul called.
yeah, that's got to be, and that's like you got to blow the whistle, man. When someone goes up in the air and gets flipped on, like gets flipped parallel to the floor, somebody's got to blow the whistle. I don't care what the circumstances were that led up to it, and you can go and review it and decide if you want to put a flagrant. But at the bare minimum, it has to be a foul. You know,
Which again is why I'm saying officials are so oblivious to the game of basketball. Like, how do you not see that?
well, the best part is that it happened right in front of him. You know,
Right.
it's like, what are you watching?
It's bizarre. It's bizarre what I wanna crawl into a ref's mind during the game, like going in a ball and someone surgically implant me in their mind. I just
Dude,
want to understand what's going on.
you should go to officiating school like Smush Parker. Have you heard about that?
Oh, that would be electric. I could film it all and stuff.
Yeah, I think he's trying to make it back to the NBA as an official now.
Smush Parker, if he becomes an NBA official, he single-handedly almost like Kobe Bryant almost killed him when he played with him.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say Kobe Bryant ruined his life, so he said, "You know what I'm gonna do, Kobe? I'm gonna go and be an official and ruin other people's lives."
That's quite the get back strategy.
The only one that we need to get in the officiating crew that could be better is if Kwame Brown joined the
my
squad,
God,
and
Kwame
then
Brown.
every time that he gets a Hornets game, it's open season. Bad night to be the GOAT if Kwame Brown comes in as the official.
How absurd was that Lakers lineup with Kwame Brown and Smush Parker back in the days? That was insane.
When Kobe was scoring 80, and it was like that was the only way they're gonna break 100 is if Kobe scores 60 points.
Dude, yeah, that was an absurd time for basketball.
Who else was Luke Walton?
Luke Walton.
Was one of the
I
main
think
guys.
Trevor Ariza was a part of that team too.
Yeah, Andrew Bynum, young Andrew Bynum.
Bynum, yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's a time when people thought Andrew Bynum was the future of basketball. And it wasn't that long ago. That's the crazy part. He signed like a max deal with the Sixers, and then I'm not sure that he ever played a game for him.
Anthony Bennett too. He was on the
Man.
Lakers, but he did the same
Dude,
thing.
Anthony Bennett's an all-timer because the people on TV knew the second that he got drafted how horrible that pick was. Like, how often is it that the second someone gets drafted, everybody's like, oh shit, they fucked that up really bad.
That's the best thing during draft night when you're watching the draft and they just draft someone bizarre and everyone just erupts in the stands.
One of my favorite ones of all time was Fred Fraschilla got brought on to talk about some international guy, and he said he's a year away from being a year away. That's like the worst compliment you could ever receive, I think.
He's a year away from being a year away.
Another one I've heard, this was like meant to be a compliment. It was it was about a former Iowa State player. His head coach said he's a great area rebounder, which is not a thing. Not a thing you want to be as an area rebounder. It means that if the ball goes straight up in the air, you can catch the ball.
Yeah.
And he said it like it was meant to be a compliment. And in the back of my mind, I was like, that was the like most backhanded insult I've ever heard a college coach ever give one of his own players in under the veil of it being a compliment.
I'm not gonna lie though, coaches come up with some insane lines like that. Like I have literally probably 200 quotes on my phone from what Coach McCaffrey said over my career. This shit, I literally, whenever I pull it up, I die laughing.
Because it's just stuff. Yeah. It's just stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's just this stuff that you're like, the more you listen to college coaches talk, the more you realize that they say a lot of things that make no sense. But I think a lot of people do that, you know. Yeah. Matt Campbell always used to talk about normality. I don't know if normality is, he like uses things that are not real words a lot that are just like, you sit there and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You go back and transcribe it and you read through it. It's like, this isn't even a coherent thought. But in the moment, it sounded like it made sense.
That they're masterminds at that, like making not coherent thoughts coherent.
Yeah. Yeah. It seem like you're actually like saying something. Deion Sanders is really good at that. You know, Deion Sanders says a lot of things that you walk away and you're like, man, he probably could have done that in about half as many words as what he did.
Right. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, what a time. All right. Iowa State going on the road this weekend, going to Missouri for the Big 12 SEC Challenge. What do you think of the Big 12 SEC Challenge in the middle of Big 12 play, or in the middle of SEC play, I guess, on the other side? How do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't mind it. I think it's good for the game of basketball to shake it up a little bit. But I mean, if I'm Iowa State, I'm like, what are we doing? We're going to play Missouri in the middle of the hardest Big 12 schedule that the Big 12 has had in years. Like, this is one of the best conferences it's been.
Right. Well, I saw today that Iowa State's gone on, since they moved the Big 12 SEC Challenge to January, Iowa State's gone on the road 6 of 8 years in the event.
Okay, if I'm the head coach, I'm like, how is this even possible?
Yeah.
Like, we got to figure out the scheduling a little bit.
And the worst part is they don't even get like marquee games, you know? Like they're going to Ole Miss or playing Mississippi State or something like that, or Missouri. They've played Missouri back-to-back years in this thing. Like at what point do we
too this year?
Yeah, last year they weren't very good, but this year they're good. Yeah, and it's like you sit there, it's like, okay, if we just want a reason for Kansas and Kentucky to play each other, why don't you just put that on the schedule? Yeah. You know?
I don't know. I think it is good for the game of basketball, but there's some schools like Iowa State, like we were just talking about, that just get the short end of the stick. I think that's happened a lot with the Gavitt games. I think part of the reason why the Gavitt games aren't going on, I think it's maybe next year they're discontinuing.
I think this was the last year. This is the last year, I think, of the Big 12 SEC Challenge as well.
Yeah, that teams just get the short end of the stick on their matchups. I mean, it's physically impossible to match up the best teams a year ahead of schedule and expect the best matchups possible for each of the teams. Like you have teams that just completely are totally different than what you expect, especially now with the transfer portal. I mean, it's going to be physically impossible to ever do cross-conference matchups in like home away contracts in the coming years because you just don't know who's going to be good anymore.
I think the best thing they could do, this is a outside the box idea. If they want to do it like this and have it be in January, why not make it, all right, so we're going to play the last Saturday in January. The Saturday before that, before all of our games tip off, we're going to have an event on TV and we're going to announce the schedule of games, and we're going to match them up based on where they're at in the league standings or whatever, like do something to create the best matchups that we possibly can and not have it be where it's made in the preseason. And I know there would be a lot of logistical things to that with hotel rooms and travel and all that kind of stuff. I would like to think that there's a way that it could be worked through, and I think that would be cool. It's like, all right, we get to the second week and third week in January, and next week we're going to go play the number 2 team in the SEC. We're the number 2 team in the Big 12. We're going to go play the number 2 team in the SEC and so on down the line. Instead of it just being like, yeah, I don't know, we might have to go play Vanderbilt or whoever. Like someone that I don't even think the SEC has Vanderbilt play in the event because Vanderbilt's so bad, So it just,
idea.
Yeah, it is like, why not? We know it can happen. We know we can do these kinds of things. Why don't we just do them,
Well, we know NCAA officials aren't the greatest at figuring stuff out. I'm counting like commissioners and conference as NCAA officials. They're just, I think the reason why that doesn't get done is because it would be too much of an expense and too much time commitment for these administrators to make it work.
God forbid everybody has to go to work, right?
Right. Yeah. They just don't want to do it. So I think that's what it comes down to, in my opinion. They could make that, like, that could be a huge event. Like the Phil Knight, I feel like the Phil Knight Classic is like kind of what you're referring to if something was along the lines of mid-season form, because that would be perfect. Unbelievable event.
I'm interested to see what, if anything, replaces some of these things now. I mean, the Big 12 has their deal that they do with the Big East, but it's like, why not try and do one with the ACC or whoever, or even make it a revolving thing that like every year you're going to have somebody different that you're going to do it with, and make it like a rotation. This would require a lot of collaboration from people that are not going to collaborate on anything because they all are worried about their own bag. But it's like, if they all came together and said, hey, we're going to set it up that in the month of, the same kind of thing, like in the month of January, everyone's going to get an opportunity to play a quality game, and you're going to get an opportunity to get a quality win if that, if you can win your game. But it's like, that would be huge for teams in the Pac-12, or huge for teams in the SEC, or huge for teams in the ACC, where you don't have as many opportunities to go and get quality wins in the regular season as you do in some of these other leagues. And that just is, I don't know. I think to me that's a no-brainer. But I can also see where if I was a Big 12 coach, I'd be like, man, we don't want to go fucking play anybody from the SEC right now. Like, we're in the middle of this Big 12 thing. Give us a Saturday off. That's what we want.
And that's the sad thing, too. If I was a coach in college, I would love to – I mean, I know head coaches aren't really necessarily the main source for scheduling games, but I would want to play every possible high-level game as possible you can throughout the season. But I mean, we've said this before, like the Big Four Classic, like discontinuing early on in the year when we were talking about that. Like it could easily be done. Like you just do away with the bye games, and how much money is being given away just to have an extra W on your schedule it's actually crazy to think about. Like the expenses that are involved with it, and logistically everything that has to do with just getting a bye game on your schedule.
Well, things like that could exist if like you would incentivize them, rather than have it be, oh, if you win 20 games, you get $150,000 or whatever it is. And it don't matter if your 20 wins come against Jackson State or come against whoever, like you're just, all right, well, I guess I got to get 20 so I can get my 150. That's all that matters, and they don't want to make their job any harder to have to go and get that 20 wins to get their money. And I'm not saying that's what every coach is like, but there's a lot of them out there that is the mentality of like, why would I make my job harder?
I think it's honestly a lot higher percentage as coaches that have that mentality. I mean, I honestly would think it's 95 to even damn near 99% of the coaches think that way. Like, oh, if I get this amount of wins in my contract this year, that's a good year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's also like, I think we referred to this as well earlier on in our podcast that, I mean, ego is so highly driven in college sports. I think that has a large part to do with it. I mean, you look at some of these college coaches and their interviews and what they say. Like, and granted, there's a lot of good ones out there, but I think egos are such a huge driving force in everything that we're just talking about with scheduling and getting to that win amount, getting that bonus. I mean, at the end of the day, it's It's about money, and everyone knows that.
Everybody knows that college sports would really get back to the way they're supposed to be if we'd all just follow the Clemson model and get into build our teams in God's name, image, and likeness.
That was the most cringe thing ever. And he thought he was doing something with that.
Oh yeah, he thought he was doing something. He thought he landed one. This is gonna be on my headstone.
And he sat back after he said it, and he's like, "That was the greatest thing I've ever said in my life."
And he was wearing that orange suit coat. He looked like a televangelist guy that's on at like 1:00 in the morning. You know, telling people, "Call now." To help us be able to spread the word of God. Pledge your funds to help us be able to spread the word of God.
Seriously though, unbelievable.
Dabo's going to end up on ABC Family at paid programming at 11:00 at night. Whatever it is.
He looks like someone that could do that too.
Oh, 100%. That guy, there in a past life, Dabo Swinney was 100% a televangelist, and he was 100% a dirty one. Like, took his parishioners' money and then just went and bought a private jet with it.
Yeah, just took off.
All right. Basketball conversation on the podcast brought to you by our friends at Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails on Main Street in Ames. It's the perfect place to go before or after Iowa State home games, anytime the Cyclones are on the road or anytime the Hawkeyes are in action. It's a great spot for late night fun with a Southern-inspired menu with a great collection of burgers, sandwiches, wings, and of course Caroline's famous fried chicken. The atmosphere is incredible with plenty of TVs to watch any game on your radar, and there's a party room available for rent for your next big gathering. That's Sweet Caroline's Kitchen and Cocktails at 316 Main Street in Ames, the presenting sponsor of all of our basketball conversation right here on the podcast. All right, Hawkeyes dropped a tough one last Saturday in Columbus. 93-77 was the final there. Huge 3-game stretch coming up for this team. Going on the road tomorrow to take on Michigan State. And then they've got Rutgers coming into Iowa City on Sunday. And then, we talked about this last week with the rescheduled game against Northwestern. Now you got 3 games in 5 days, 2 of them against really quality opponents. And then Northwestern's no slouch either. And now they're going to be a team that's like had 2 weeks off in the middle of the season. First of all, what were your thoughts on the game against Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, they just ran into a team that was desperate. I think it said a lot about teams that are desperate during this time of the year. They're generally the teams that are going to get a win. And it was kind of the worst time to play, first off, a road game coming off a postponed game that you should have made a home Big Ten conference game. The odds are in your favor to win that game. Get that postponed, and you go to an Ohio State team that's desperate and searching for their identity and a win. It was just a worst-case scenario for Iowa to come in and try to get a win. I kind of figured that everything that was going to happen did happen, and at the end of the day, they had a quick turnaround. They play tomorrow against Michigan State, at Michigan State, which is one of the hardest places to play in the whole country. This is a huge stretch for them. I think if they can get out of this 3-game stretch and get 2 wins, it's another morale builder for this team to continue to get into that NCAA tournament talk. I think they're in it right now, but they still have a lot of work to do. They're gonna have to get a couple more big time wins. They're gonna have to take care of their home games. They're in a tough stretch right now. I think if the same thing stands, they get to 10, 11 conference wins, they're sitting really good to get in the NCAA tournament.
Obviously, having a lot of good teams helps for this from a Michigan State standpoint. What makes it hard to go and play there?
I think just the environment. For whatever reason, Michigan State, I mean, they get away with murder their players on their home court, and the refs allow it. The fucking black and white stripes allow.
You're playing 8-on-5 in East Lansing.
You're playing 8-on-5. And it's not fair. And you have just fans just literally on top of you. Student section's right there. It's loud, one of the loudest places to play. And Michigan State always plays really, really hard at home. I'm not saying they don't play hard at away games, but anytime you're at home, the Big Ten teams are going to play a little harder. So they're going to have to come ready to play. The first 4 minutes and the last 4 minutes of the first half are going to be a huge telling for how this game will go. But again, Iowa has came out of holes a lot through this year already. You look at Indiana game. I feel like they're always they're kind of like that comeback team last year, and Chris Murray stepping up extraordinary during important times. I mean, he got hot during the Ohio State game, and I thought they were gonna pull in within 8. But for whatever reason, once it was around 8 and 9, Ohio State always answered. But yeah, Michigan State, it's a weird environment, man. It's like bowl shape. I feel like it's a lot similar to Iowa. Like the court's down below, everyone's on top of you. Something about that green, man. Like it flat when there's a whiteout or when they're all wearing green, it just like reflects off the court. Like it's weird to say, but it's like it's something that you can't even explain to someone if you had to. Like it's just a crazy place to play.
They have a really light colored court too, don't they? Like
Yeah.
it just it's just you're just blinded by all the whiteout and the light colored floor. That can't be legal. There has to be some conversations at some point. We got to say, hey, we can't let them do this. This is like the blue turf at Boise.
Right. It's similar, and I mean having 3 extra people on your team too is always a beneficial benefit, especially when
those guys are blinded too. And they're blind to begin with.
Right. I mean, how do you ref a game when you're blinded by the court and you're actually blind? Like that's just a bad combination. It's a really bad combination, Jared.
The 3 blind mice rolling up into East Lansing. They got their walker or their sticks and stuff they're walking around out in front of them with.
This is also one of the games too. I think I've said this about the Iowa State-Iowa game. The 3 officials that are reffing this game, it's gonna matter. It will. If it's like a Courtney Green and Paul type combination, like Iowa's done for. Michigan State will kill at least 4 people on Iowa basketball team, and no charges will be brought upon them. No foul will be brought, and they'll get away with a 20-point win.
It's going to be Courtney Green. It'll be Courtney Green,
Brian Dorsey, and
Doug
Paul
Sermons. Yeah. Yeah. The 3 guys most likely to give Frank McCaffrey a technical. That'll be the 3 people that it is.
If there's like a crazy turn of events during this game, I just want people that watch Tom Izzo and how he reacts. And I want you to reflect long and hard about this is mostly directly to a lot of Iowa State fans. I want you to think really, really long and hard about what you guys have said about Coach McCaffrey and freaking out and throwing tantrums. And I want you to personally reflect on everything that you have responded to me about, to Coach McCaffrey about, to even the Iowa men's basketball Twitter account about the DEF CONs with Fran McCaffrey. I want you to really reflect on where am I at as a person, and am I truly believing what I've been saying on social media?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to find a single Iowa State fan that's going to defend Tom Izzo. Not one. So I think that they can all come together for this. I think Tom Izzo long since burned all of his bridges and aims since the 2000 Elite Eight game at the Palace of Auburn Hills. That, I think that there's not going to be any love lost for Coach Izzo and the Spartans from the Iowa State side.
It's something about him being – this is going to come out bad, but something about him being so small and throwing the tantrums that he does. I mean,
well, it's a lot less menacing. If Juwan Howard's going to throw tantrums like that, like it's a big guy,
big fucking guy, and he throws punches. Like you're not going to see Tom Izzo throw a punch, like I don't know.
Is Tom Izzo a nice guy when you've talked to him?
Oh, he's phenomenal. Yes, he's phenomenal. I've always had great interactions with him. I've never had a bad experience off the court with him. He's always been very kind, very appreciative of my game, appreciative of how Iowa has played. But on the court, I think he gets away with a lot of stuff on the sideline. Generally, if I didn't play for Iowa and I played for a coach that was a complete opposite personality as Coach McCaffrey, maybe I would be a little impartial for how Izzo reacts on the court. But again, it's that double standard, man. I just think it's crazy to me that some of the stuff that happens.
Turns out it pays off to be an old head that has built up a reputation across 30 years of coaching, that you're going to be able to get away with a lot.
Right. I mean, that happens throughout the whole league too. I mean, look at but for whatever, I don't know. Coach McCaffrey, I feel he's built up a reputation, but
You see, even Fred Hoiberg got a technical last week in the Big Ten,
and that's crazy to me because
Yeah.
Fred Hoiberg is like one of the most calm coaches in the whole country, in the whole world. Like, I don't know. Refs suck.
They do suck. I saw a bracketology last week that had Iowa State and Michigan State playing each other in Des Moines in the tournament, and I saw a bunch of Iowa State fans right away. Yes, we want that. It's time. It's time for Michigan State to come to our turf now. You know, after that game in 2000.
That environment, man, would be incredible.
Oh, imagine a scenario in which Iowa State and Kansas are in the same region, are both playing in Des Moines, and then somehow play each other in Kansas City to go to the Final Four.
That place, the roof would literally blast off.
If Iowa State or Iowa ever played in the NCAA tournament in Des Moines, that would be like one of the biggest sporting events in the history of Iowa sports. You know,
it was the 2020 whenever COVID was. I think there was a Des Moines site that year. I don't remember that when it got
a scheduled one, right? Yeah,
and then it got flipped to Indianapolis for the bubble.
Yeah,
like I remember how, because we were really good that year. We had a chance to get to Des Moines site, and imagine like the whole season changes. Like, honestly, I mean, you make a home environment out of an NCAA tournament game. It's just almost impossible to beat a team like that. Like, because we did it. We played Cincinnati in Ohio my junior year, and it was literally filled to the brim with Cincinnati red. And we're like, first of all, we're a 10 seed playing a 7 seed. Like, how the fuck does that happen? A 7 seed gets a home game, but it is such a huge advantage. Like, we were down like 18 or 19, and then we came back and won. But that is such a huge advantage for a team to have a home setting like that.
Yeah, that'd be pretty incredible if they're able to play in Des Moines. I mean, it's always fun when the NCAA tournament comes here anyway, but just if you can get Iowa or Iowa State in there, man, that would be special. You know, I think for everybody that could be part of that. All right, last couple things I've got on basketball. I mentioned Steve Prohm before. He's joined our crew of hating the officials. Last night he chased an official out the tunnel after the game. I would imagine he was calling him all kinds of nice names, asking for his address so that he can send him a Christmas card. One of the funniest things I've seen in a while was the Southern Illinois coach. Southern Illinois won the game, as I'm sure people can imagine if the opposing head coach is chasing the officials out of the gym. But he's walking down the sidelines, has his hand out to shake somebody's hand, and there was nobody there. Steve Prohm's gone. He's out.
That's just great entertainment for the TV people in the back, just to.
Oh, I'm sure all 500 people who are locked in on ESPN Plus felt like they got their money's worth.
This is gonna be off topic for a second, but for as big as ESPN is, the games they broadcast on ESPN Plus is criminal.
Complete dog shit, dude. Complete dog shit.
They are so bad at producing those games. Like, at the point is like not even worth it to even have it on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, we need competition badly in the college athletics space.
It's bad. Like, I've watched probably a dozen games on ESPN Plus this month, and I'm like, first of all, who the fuck are these commentators? They have no idea what they're talking about. And two, like, we're zoomed into a guy's face while we're mid possession. I'm not even knowing what's happening. Like, we have a graphic just hogging the whole screen and the game's going on. We flip to a guy making a three.
That's my favorite one, is when we come back from halftime, because we didn't have a halftime show for whatever reason. You know, come back from halftime after the canned production thing that they had from before the game, and then they put a graphic on half the screen that covers up the basket. And then someone will score every time. And I'm like, what the fuck? What happened? No one can see. They're covering up the screen with the graphics. These people are idiots, dude. Like, they just aren't thinking about anything of what they're trying to do. Like, are we here to watch the game, or are we here to, like, show off all the cool graphics we can do? Like, come on, guys.
It happened last night. I don't know. I can't remember which game it was, but they were showing the SEC seeding lines for
Oh,
the NCAA tournament.
Jesus.
And
Had Joe Lenardi in his fucking bunker.
yeah, and it had all like it had like the right seating, like numbers. It had the right logos, but just random ass teams, like in different. Like Auburn was in Alabama spot, Arkansas was in like Kentucky spot. I'm looking at. I'm like, I thought I was going like crazy for a second.
You're like, to have a stroke?
I'm like, am I dying? Am I dying right now?
Imagine what the announcers who have to talk about those things, like, that pops up and it's like, what am I looking at right now? You know, and you don't want to be the one that's like gonna call out the people working the game with you, but it's like, is this fucking amateur hour out here? Like, what are we doing?
Betsy, what are you doing back there?
Right. The thing that it just really bugs me, because it's like, you know, they put so many Big 12 games on that ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
And it's like, I refuse to believe that we don't have the money or the infrastructure necessary. Like, build a fucking studio somewhere. I don't care where it is. It could be Dallas, Texas. It could be at the Big 12 offices for all I care. Hire 2 people, and their entire job is to do halftime shows for Big 12 basketball games. And that's it. That's all you do. And it's like, you don't have to pay them $1 million. They just come in and they do 20 minutes every night on Big 12 basketball games. And that's it. You know, that's like the easiest thing that you could ever imagine. But for some reason, that's apparently really hard for people at ESPN to figure out.
Sounds pretty feasible in my opinion. You could even do it like remotely too. Like you don't even like you could easily make a good production remotely. They did it during COVID. It's not like they haven't done it before.
I will volunteer to sit at Hilton Coliseum at a game and do the halftime show for ESPN Plus if that's what I have to do.
That'd be electric.
$100 a halftime show and I'll do it.
That's you're selling yourself short.
That's my rate. Well, I'm a man of the people. All right,
true.
I'm a man of the people. I know the people need the halftime show. Right now, what we're doing is not getting it done. If we need to come up with a better idea, I'm here.
Just do it for free then.
Brett Yormark, call me up. Let's do it. Let's get it done. But no, I knew the officiating in that game last night had to be horrendous because Steve Prohm's like the most mild-mannered guy that I've been around, one of the most mild-mannered people I've been around in basketball. And for him to be losing it on the officials like that, I was like, man, we're down bad out here in the Missouri Valley, I guess.
He's like one of those coaches that want to be like a psycho on the sideline, but he just can't do it. Like he's just not a guy personality wise can do it.
And when he tries, it comes off so disingenuous because he's not that way. You know, like it just like comes off like, hey man, we're good.
Yeah,
we don't need it. You know,
he's a peacemaker at the end of the day.
That's not what you've told me before.
No,
that's what I tried to tell you. He was making peace. He was trying to be the bigger man.
I was trying to be nice to Iowa State, but no, he wasn't.
Well, he's not here anymore, so you can say whatever you want now.
Well, apart, you guys.
Don't worry. You're not going to say anything about Steve Prohm that nobody else has already said before. So,
well, no one else got pushed by him during a game. So,
assaulted allegedly.
That was crazy.
I'll never forget that. It was just so stupid too. It was like at the most.
Which is why I never brought it up, like in the heat of the moment, because I'm like, all right, this is just a dumb situation. But he literally, I was literally pushed by an opposing coach.
It was just like all out.
I wasn't even doing anything. I was literally just in a conversation, like we were talking shit back to back with players. Like,
who was it that did start that? Was it Pemsel?
It was Jacobson, dude. He was
okay.
Jacobson was. Pemsel was. He was a great player to play with because he would just love talking shit. And him and Jacobson was a similar type personality. So
Michael Jacobson had a pretty good college basketball career. I think Michael Jacobson's playing the sport that he should have been playing.
Yeah.
All along now.
100%. Yeah.
If we're being quite frank. Like don't get me wrong, he played a lot of college basketball and had a good career. But man, that guy should have been playing football. Every time I watched him play, I was like, this guy should have been playing football.
I remember playing him in high school, and I'm like, dude, what is this guy doing on the basketball floor? Like, this isn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
He should be running with the ball, not dribbling a ball.
Yeah, he should have been the starting tight end at Iowa State, not the starting center.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, last thing I wanted to talk about before we sign off this week. You got to be part of the Chris Street documentary for Big Ten Network that was released last week. Kudos to you for your role that you played in that. Man, that was as powerful, I think, of sports content as I've seen in a very long time. An important story that I think needs to continue to be told. And there's a lot of people in the state of Iowa, a lot of young people especially, that don't know that story, and every year it comes back up, and every year it's, we talk about it for a couple weeks or whatever, but I think it's hard for anyone who wasn't there. I mean, I wasn't even there, to truly comprehend, and you obviously weren't there, but to truly comprehend like how important he was to people in the state of Iowa in a place where we only get so many of them ones, those guys that are going to go and do all those great things. Like that, it just tears you up every time you think about it.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten Network did an extraordinary job telling the story. And I mean, I continue giving all the props in the world to the Street family for allowing so many thousands, millions of people into their lives and their stories, because that is so hard to do, to be so transparent about not only their son's life, but their own lives and the tragedy that they faced and continue to deal with. That's hard to allow people in your life and have people experience and share the same memories that you hold so true to your heart. And not a lot of people can do that. And I truly believe Mike and Patty Street are so incredibly special for that. And like you said, I wasn't really too known of Chris Street when I was first getting onto campus or beforehand. And then when I first got on campus, I learned about Chris Street right away and the story and Mike and Patty Street being there from day one. And it's crazy to think when I first met him, and I remember Patty giving me a hug and Mike giving me a hug, and we were just meeting, and the strong connection that we felt from day one. It was almost like my opportunity to get to his record and do what I was able to do. It was almost like it was destined to happen, which is, it might sound a little crazy to say, but it's truly, looking back on it and being in the moment too, when I first did miss the free throw, it was something I never really, I mean, I knew it was important, but I didn't think it was as big as what had happened. And now looking back and think about all the memories I had with that family and continue to be so close to them, like, it's crazy just how life works, man. And I truly believe like God has a plan for every single thing and every single reason that happens in your life, and everything that you go through as a person, every decision that you make down the line. It's something that their relationship I have with them is truly like a family relationship. Like Patty, she makes me call her grandma. Like that's how close we are. And there's just no better people to represent that university than those Mike and Patty and the whole entire family.
Yeah, you say the part about how God has a plan for everything, and the moment when they have his Bible and they pull out the highlighted verse, and what I'm gonna paraphrase it because I don't have the Bible verse memorized, but it's talking about the seeds and how something has to die for the seeds to drop for it to grow. Was as powerful as I think a message I think I've ever heard in anything like that, because everyone thinks that you look at what Chris Street's doing and you understand what God's plan for him is, that he's going to go and be an NBA player and he's going to go and be this beacon of hope for athletes in the state of Iowa. And the reality is that he had, on some level, subliminally, he knew that the plan for him was not to do that, and that is so incredible to me. And it's like, and for him to have highlighted that verse and for that to speak to him the way that it did, that's what it tells you, where like God did have a plan for Chris Street, and it was bigger than basketball. It's bigger than anything else. And it's about showing people teaching people to do things the right way, teaching people to live their lives the right way, and to be good people. And it's not about the stuff that happens on the basketball court. And that just, to me, that was it had me crying. Like I'm sitting there and I'm just like, shit, man. Like this is just, it's incredible that someone from the state of Iowa could mean like this much.
Yeah, and the amount of people that
Are
he's
impacted by him. Yeah.
yeah, it's absurd. You think about it down the line. I mean, he's changed not only my life, and I never met him, but hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that have listened to his story and the family story, allowing people to understand everything that they've gone through. Chris has single-handedly changed the trajectory of not only University of Iowa basketball, but the state of Iowa as a whole. I truly believe that, just by what he meant to the university, what he was to so many of his friends and teammates, how many people loved him, how Mike and Patty have handled the tragedy that has occurred. I mean, it is the ultimate Iowa story, in my opinion, of being good people, having the worst of the worst thrown at your lives, and continuing to understand God's plan, continuing to love your neighbor, continuing to loving each other that are not even a part of your lives. That's so powerful, and something that I've truly have tried to continue to feed off of, especially after college. Like this man I've never met, but he is as close as a brother as I can ever imagine.
Yeah. I think that is definitely worth a watch for anybody out there who has not taken the time to sit down and do that. It's about an hour. It is definitely worth it. I think everybody will walk away feeling like they got something out of it, and just to learn about pretty incredible young man. All right, man. We'll talk to you again next week. Hopefully after some more wins on the court, and we'll talk to everybody again soon. Peace.